The signal drifted through the black between the stars. Weak, broken, and almost lost in the endless noise of space, it carried only 4 words in the language of the sender. Help us. We're dying. It came from the outer rim, far from any trade, lanes or patrol routes. The signal had no coordinates anyone sane would want to visit. The Varelians had sent it with trembling hands. Their homeworld had already fallen to shadow. Cities burned, oceans boiled, and the skies swarmed with dark-shaped predator ships that never gave mercy. The Varelians were not warriors. They had never needed them before. They believed someone, somewhere, would answer. Someone kind. Someone noble. For weeks, the signal went unanswered. Then, without warning, a small, unmarked ship caught it. Inside the ship, humans listened. They didn't look like saviors. They wore worn armor, their weapons strapped to their sides, even in the safety of their own vessel. Their eyes were sharp, scanning, calculating. On the largest screen, the signal repeated in translation, "Help us, we're dying." Captain Rafe leaned. Back in his chair, his voice was calm, almost bored. "Varelians," he muttered. "Pretty little glass-boned things, not built for war." The comms officer, a young woman with scars along her jaw, turned toward him. "Coordinates are in the rim sector, far past the old patrol line. It's deep Kravax territory." Mention of that name? The room went quiet. Kravax. Even humans didn't like to say it. Rafe finally sat forward, the corner of his mouth curling. Set course. The engines lit up with a low roar. The ship moved, with predatory grace, slipping into faster-than-light travel. The Varelians didn't know it yet, but someone had heard their cry, and the ones who heard were not diplomats. They were Deathworlders, born on a planet where everything tried to kill you every day. On Varelia Prime, the last survivors huddled in the underground chamber beneath the capital. The air was stale, heavy with fear. Every distant explosion made the walls tremble. Counselor Saren, tall and silver-skinned, stared at the flickering image of their homeworld's orbit. Dark shapes circled above like vultures. "They'll come. For us soon," Saren whispered. No one's answering. The signal is lost. His aide, Lyra, shook her head. "We keep transmitting." "Someone might." A loud tone cut her off. A ship was approaching fast. At first, Saren's heart lifted. One of ours? The orbital sensors pulled the image into focus. Not Varelian, not even from the Central Coalition. The hull was dark steel, scorched from old battles. Its design was brutal and simple, made for speed, armor, killing power. The voice came over the comm. Deep, calm, human. "This is Captain Rafe of the Iron Reaper. We received your distress call. We're coming down." The Varelians had heard stories of humans. Most were warnings told to children. They were survivors of a death world where predators were faster than prey, where the land itself could poison you, where storms could strip flesh from bone. Their soldiers were said to be fearless. When they fought to end things. Entirely. Lyra's voice trembled. "Deathworlders here," Saren swallowed. "If they can help us, we have no choice." Above the planet, the Iron Reaper dropped out of orbit. The ship's black hull was streaked with burns. Weapon ports lined its flanks. The human crew moved quickly, checking weapons, loading ammunition, and locking down the bridge. "Situation?" Rafe asked. "Enemy has full control of orbit. At least 2 Kravax war cruisers and a dozen raiders," the tactical officer replied. "They're ignoring us for now. They'll probably think we're scavengers." Rafe's grin was sharp. "Let's show them they're wrong." Without warning, the Iron Reaper turned hard and fired. Its railguns cut through space like lightning. One Kravax raider exploded before it even realized it was under attack. The second tried to flee. It didn't get far. Kravax cruisers woke fast. Their weapons lit the sky, but the Iron Reaper moved like a predator dodging clumsy prey. It was smaller, faster, and every shot it fired hit something important. In less than 2 minutes, the orbit was clear. The only sounds on the bridge were the hum of the engines and the quiet breathing of the crew. "Planet safe to approach," the pilot said. Not safe, Rafe corrected. Safer. They descended through a sky streaked with smoke. From above, the humans could see the burning cities. Krivak's ships still roamed the lower atmosphere, hunting stragglers. The crew moved with cold efficiency. Tracking targets and removing them one by one, the landing ramp lowered into the underground council chamber. The air shifted. The Varelians had expected warriors, but they hadn't expected this. Humans walked like predators' eyes, scanning every shadow, hands never far from their weapons. Their armor was scarred and patched in places, but the people inside it stood tall, unshaken. Captain Rafe stepped forward. "You called for help, Counselor?" Sarah nodded. "Yes. We didn't know if anyone would hear." We heard Rafe's eyes were steady. "Where are they?" Saren hesitated. "The Krivaks. They're everywhere." "In the skies, in our cities," Good Rafe said. "We'll find them faster." Lyra's voice was cautious. We wanted to negotiate, to make peace." Rafe's expression didn't change. "Peace isn't what we do." There was a silence in the chamber. Saren's throat felt tight. "Then, what do you do?" Rafe glanced back at his crew. One of them checked their rifle. Another was scanning a holographic map, marking locations in red. He turned back to the Varelians. "We clean up problems," he said, "and you've got a big one." Outside, the sound of engines rumbled. Human dropships lifted off, heading toward the nearest Krivaks-occupied city. The Varelians stood frozen, unsure whether to feel relief or fear. They had wanted help. Now they had it. But as the first explosions echoed, across the surface, Lyra whispered to herself, "What if we've just traded one danger for another?" In the streets above, the Krivaks patrols heard the noise. First, they thought it was resistance fighters. Then they saw the humans. The Krivaks were built for war, tall, armored, claws sharp enough to tear steel. But the humans didn't run. They didn't even slow down. Every shot was precise. Every move was planned. The Krivaks fought like predators. Humans fought like something worse, something that killed predators for food. Hours passed. Smoke thickened over the cities. Varelians listened to the distant sounds of battle, short bursts of gunfire, deep rumbles of explosions, and sometimes the strange silence that came when an entire patrol was gone. When Rafe returned, his armor was streaked with ash. His voice was the same calm it had been when they arrived. "That's one city cleared," he said. "How many more?" Saren hesitated. 7. Rafe's grin was thin. "Then we'd better get started." The Varelians didn't cheer. They didn't clap or celebrate. They only watched the humans walk away, disappearing back into the smoke. Somewhere, above in the cold black of space, another Krivaks fleet was on the move. They had heard that humans were in the sector. For the first time in decades, Krivaks commanders felt something they didn't understand. Fear, and the Varelians, deep underground, began to wonder if the thing they had just invited into. Their world was even more dangerous than the monsters they were running from. Because Deathworlders didn't come to talk, they came to end things. The Varelian capital lay in ruins above the underground council chamber. Smoke drifted down from shattered streets. The sound of distant gunfire rolled through the tunnels like thunder. Counselor Saren paced near the map table, his hands clasped tight behind his back. Every so often he would glance at the feed from the surface. Each time the images made his stomach tighten. Streets littered with Krivaks' bodies. Walls splashed dark, and the human soldiers moving through it all like shadows. They were methodical. Not a single human walked without scanning every corner. Every movement was sharp, quick, and dangerous. Lyra stood at the far side of the chamber, watching a different feed, a close-up from the helmet of a human soldier. The camera shook with each step. Every few seconds, a short burst of gunfire cut through the background hum. Then silence, and the soldier moved on. She shivered. "They don't fight like us." Saren didn't look at her. "No, they fight to finish." The heavy steel door groaned open. Captain Rafe entered, his armor smeared with dust and ash. His helmet hung at his side, revealing a face that was calm, unreadable. "Your east sector is clear," he said. "No Krivaks left breathing." Saren hesitated before answering. That is good news. Rafe studied him. You sound unsure. The counselor took a breath. We asked for help to protect our people. Not to. He searched for a polite word and failed. Eradicate. The human captain's voice didn't change. The Kravaks don't negotiate. You talk to them, they eat you. You want them gone, you kill them all. Lyra stepped forward. And what if we want peace after they're gone? Will the galaxy see us as survivors, or as the ones who brought Deathworlders here? Rafe's eyes narrowed slightly. You want to survive? Yes, Lyra said. Then stop worrying about what the galaxy thinks. The galaxy isn't here. The Kravaks are. A sudden crackle came from Rafe's wrist. Come, a voice, low and urgent. Captain, we've got movement. Rafe didn't hesitate. Show me. The main display flickered. A drone feed appeared black sky over the northern sector, glowing with the heat signatures of incoming ships. At least a dozen Kravaks raiders. And behind them, something larger. Much larger. Saren's throat went dry. A cruiser. What? Rafe shook his head. Bigger. That's a command ship. The humans moved fast. Orders barked. Weapons checked. Dropships prepped. The air in the chamber shifted tighter, heavier, like the space before a lightning strike. Rafe turned to the Varelians. Stay below. Keep your people together. This isn't your fight anymore, Saren bristled. This is our planet. Not today, Rafe. Cut him off. Today, it's a battlefield. And on battlefields, you either fight or you stay out of. The way you can't do the first, he left before Saren could answer. Above ground, the Iron Reaper lifted from its landing zone, engines howling. It climbed through the smoke into open air, then broke free into the black above. The incoming Kravaks fleet grew larger on the view screen. Gangular, jagged ships that looked more like predatory animals than machines. On the human bridge, the crew worked in silence. They didn't waste words. Each one knew exactly what to do. Tactical. Mark the lead ship, Rafe said. A targeting reticle locked onto the massive Kravaks command vessel. It was more than 3 times the size of the Iron Reaper. But Rafe's tone stayed calm. Forward guns. Fire on my mark. The Kravaks fleet saw them then. The Predator ships shifted formation, claws extending, weapons charging. Mark. The first human volley tore through space. A spear of light slammed into the lead Kravaks vessel, punching through armor and detonating deep inside. The blast shook the other ships, scattering them like startled prey, but the Kravaks didn't run. Not yet. The battle lit the darkness. Human. Railgun rounds ripped through raiders, shredding holes. Kravaks beam weapons slashed back, carving deep gouges into the Iron Reaper's plating. Shields flared, dimmed, flared again. Inside the council chamber, the Varelians watched in silence. Each explosion lit the walls with brief flashes. Each time the human ship took a hit, Lyra flinched. Saren's voice was low. If they lose... Shh. Didn't answer. In orbit, the fight turned brutal. The Iron Reaper wove between enemy ships, hitting hard, vanishing into blind spots, then striking again. But the Kravaks command ship was relentless, driving forward, its weapons hammering the human shields. On the human bridge, alarms wailed. Shields at 30%, someone shouted. Bring us in closer, Rafe ordered. The pilot's eyes widened. Closer. That's suicide. Closer, Rafe repeated. The Iron Reaper dove under the belly of the Kravaks command ship, so near that the enemy's own guns couldn't angle downward enough to hit them. At this range, every shot from the Reaper smashed into critical systems. Armor peeled away. Hull plating burst outward in showers of molten metal. Then the human ship broke free, rolling hard to avoid debris as the Kravaks command ship erupted in a slow, terrible bloom of fire. The remaining raiders scattered. Some tried to fight. Most fled. On the bridge, Rafe exhaled once, steady as always. Status: minor hull damage, shields recharging. No casualties, the tactical officer replied. Good, sweep the rest. By the time the Iron Reaper returned to the surface, the Varelians were waiting. The heavy ramp lowered, and the humans walked down through the haze of their own victory. Rafe stopped in front of Saren. Orbit is clear. Now? Saren studied him. For now, they'll be back. They always. Come back. Lyra's voice was tight. Then how do we stop them for good? Rafe's answer was simple. We find where they sleep. We burn it down. No one spoke. The humans began loading their gear back into their dropships. The sound of metal boots on steel echoed through the chamber. Saran glanced at Lyra. Face was pale. You asked for help, he said quietly. She nodded once. I'm starting to wonder what kind of help we've brought here. Above them, far out in the black, a Kravik survivor sent a signal. Not to call for reinforcements. Not yet. The signal was short, a warning to every Kravik's warlord still alive, Deathworlders. We're here, and they were hunting in the cold dark between stars. The Kravik's command ship Bloodfang drifted through a silent sector. Its crew prowled the decks with restless energy, claws clicking on metal floors. They had been raiding the rim for months, without real resistance, until now. The message arrived as a sharp burst of encrypted pulses. The comms officer hissed as he read it. It's from the Black Talon. They've lost their command ship. Entire fleet destroyed. The bridge went still. Every Kravax there knew the Black Talon's commander Vrax the Unbroken. No one had ever beaten him in open space combat. Who? The captain demanded, his voice low and dangerous. The comms officer hesitated, then forced the words out. Humans. For a moment no one spoke. The only sound was the deep hum of the engines. The captain's claws curled against the armrest. You're certain? The officer nodded. The survivors didn't fight. They ran, they said. They said the humans came out of nowhere and tore through them like prey. A younger Kravax at the weapons console scoffed. Humans are weak, soft. The captain's claws slammed down on the metal, cutting him off. You've never fought them. His voice dropped lower, almost a growl. I have. The bridge crew turned toward him. The captain's gaze was far away now, staring into the past. It was years ago. On the edge of Deathworld space, we thought they were scavengers. They were not. The images came back to him, humans, moving like predators, silent and patient. They didn't rush. They didn't roar. They just killed. They kept killing until nothing moved. They don't fight for territory. They don't fight for pride. They fight to end you, if they are here. He looked around the bridge. Then some of you will not live to see another cycle. A murmur of unease rippled through the crew. Younger warriors stopped smirking. Course, Captain, the pilot asked quietly. The captain hesitated. Running was shameful. But humans were not like other prey. They were. Something else before he could answer. A new signal came in. The image flickered to life on the main screen, a Kravak's warlord, his face scarred and his armor dripping with blood. You have humans in your sector, the warlord said. We've intercepted their movements. They're on Varelia Prime. They've already destroyed one of our fleets. The captain's spines rose slightly. You call for reinforcements? The warlord's eyes narrowed. No. I call for war. ... The screen went dark. The captain knew what that meant. Every Kravax vessel within 10 sectors would converge on Varelia. And when the Kravaks gathered in numbers, nothing survived. Back on Varelia, humans were already moving. The Iron Reaper hung in low orbit, scanning for heat signatures and troop movements. Captain Rafe studied the data. His crew worked. In tight formation, every station alive with activity. They're regrouping, the tactical officer said. We've got chatter on their war channels. Big fleet moving in. How big? Rafe asked. Big enough that most people would run. Rafe's mouth twitched into a half smile. Good thing we're not most people. On the surface, the Varelians gathered in the underground chamber. The news of the Kravik's destruction had spread quickly, whispers of the human skill, their speed, their complete lack of mercy. Some were relieved. Others were afraid. Lyra sat in the corner, listening to the nervous voices. A group of young Varelians argued about whether the humans were saviors or a new kind of threat. They killed hundreds in a single day, one said. They saved us, another argued. They're Deathworlders, the first replied. They don't save, they end things. Above them, in the far reaches of the sector, the Kravox fleet gathered. Command ships, war cruisers. Raiders all moving toward one small blue and green world. Inside the Bloodfang, the captain stood. At the forward viewport, watching the stars drift by, his second-in-command approached. If we gather enough ships, the humans can't stand against us. The captain's claws tapped the railing. You think they'll wait for us to gather? The younger Kravox frowned. What else would they do? The captain bared his teeth in something between a grin and a snarl. They will come for us first, because that is what Deathworlders do. They hunt. Even as he spoke, hundreds of light years away, the Iron Reaper adjusted course. Rafe's eyes were locked on the long-range scans. That cluster there, he said, pointing to a formation of incoming ships. We take them before they join the main force. The tactical officer glanced at the numbers. That's a 22-1 fight. Only if we let them shoot back. Rafe replied. The engines roared, and the Iron Reaper vanished into the black. Back on the Bloodfang, the captain's spines prickled. He didn't know how, but he could feel it somewhere out there. The humans were already on their way. He turned. To his crew, ready the weapons. Lock the bulkheads. And remember this. If the Deathworlders reach us, they will not leave survivors. The crew obeyed without a word. Far ahead in the quiet space between stars, a dark shape slipped out of faster-than-light travel. The Iron Reaper's weapons began to power up, its targeting systems already painting red dots across the Kravax. Ships. Rafe stood on the bridge, calm as ever. Let's make them understand what answering an SOS really means. The first volley tore into the lead Kravox raider, and the hunt began. Silence hung over the black between the stars. The Kravax formation moved slow and confident, engines glowing faintly as they crossed the sector. The Bloodfang led the packs, sleek, armored, built for intimidation. They had no idea they were being hunted 100,000 kilometers away. The Iron Reaper drifted cold. No active scans. No engine flare. Every light inside the human vessel was dimmed. On the bridge, Captain Rafe stood with one hand on the back of the pilot's chair. His crew moved in slow, precise motions, like predators inching closer to prey. Targets? Rafe asked quietly. 12 raiders, 3 cruisers, and the command ship, the tactical officer replied. They're in close formation. If we hit the lead, the rest won't have room to maneuver. Rafe's eyes narrowed. Then we hit the lead. The pilot's fingers hovered over the controls. Once we fire, they'll know exactly where we are good, Rafe said. Let them know. The order was given. The Iron Reaper came alive. Shields surged, engines roared, and the forward railguns charged. The first shot lanced through space. It tore into the lead Kravox cruiser's forward section, punching through armor and ripping out the heart of the ship. A white-hot explosion bloomed in the black, shards of metal tumbling outward. The Kravax reacted instantly. Formations broke. Weapons powered up, comms channels filled with snarls and shouted orders. On the Bloodfang, alarms screamed. The captain slammed a clawed hand onto the armrest. Fights them, find them, and kill them. But the humans didn't wait to be found. The Iron Reaper dove into the middle of the Kravax formation, moving faster than anything that size had. Right to. Its railguns fired in perfect rhythm, each shot crippling another ship. Missiles streaked from its launch bays, or guidance systems hunting engine heat. On the Varelian homeworld, deep underground, Counselor Saren and Lyra watched the battle feed. The humans' precision was terrifying. No wasted shots, no hesitation. There, cutting through them like Lyra started, then stopped herself. Like prey. Saren finished quietly. In space, the Kravax fought back hard. Beam weapons lit the darkness, hammering the Iron Reaper's shields. A raider swung in close, claws extended to tear into the human ship's hull. Starboard guns, now, Rafe snapped. A barrage of autocannon fire tore into the raider's flank. Its hull split open, spilling fragments and atmosphere into the void. The human ship rolled, slipping past the drifting wreck, and drove straight toward the Bloodfang. The Kravax captain bared his teeth. "Bring the main guns to bear. End them." The command ship's heavy cannons fired, each shot bright as a newborn star. The Iron Reaper twisted and wove, taking one glancing hit that sent a shudder through its frame. "Minor hull breach. Deck 6, the damage officer reported. Seal it." "Keep firing," Rafe said. They closed the distance. At point-blank range, the Iron Reaper's forward guns opened up. Shot ripped into the Bloodfang's thick armor. The Kravax ship's shields flickered, strained, and finally collapsed. Rafe's voice was calm. "Put a hole in their bridge." The tactical officer complied. The next railgun round punched straight through the Bloodfang's command section. The captain of the Kravax vessel had just enough time to feel the deck buck beneath him before the vacuum tore everything away. The flagship spun out of control, its engines flaring wildly, then vanished in a blossom of fire. The rest of the Kravax ships faltered. Some fired wildly. Most broke formation and tried to escape. "Do we let them go?" the pilot asked. Rafe's answer was cold. No witnesses. The hunt became slaughter. The Iron Reaper pursued every fleeing ship, cutting them down one by one. The battle lasted less than 15 minutes. When it was over, the black was filled. With drifting wreckage, no Kravax signals remained. On the bridge, the crew ran quick post-battle checks. Minor damage, no fatalities. Rafe stepped back from the controls and looked at the screen filled with wreckage. "Mark all wreck sites for salvage, and set course back to Varelia." In the underground chamber, the Varelians listened to the final moments of the fight. When the feed went silent, the room stayed quiet for a long time. Saren finally spoke. "It's over." Lyra shook her head. "Not over. Just paused." Hours later, the Iron Reaper descended into Varelia's smoke-choked sky. The ramp lowered. Rafe walked down with his officers, their armor still streaked with battle scars. "The fleet's gone," Rafe told Saren. "For now, the counselor." Tried to form a reply, but nothing came. Rafe turned to Lyra instead. "You need to decide something." Her brow furrowed. "Decide what?" "How far you want us to go. Because this doesn't end until we take the fight to them. If we do that, there's no turning back." He left them with that thought, disappearing back into the haze. Far out in the darkness, beyond the range of human sensors, a larger Kravax fleet was already changing course. The loss of the Bloodfang had enraged the warlords. It would gather every ship they had. The Deathworlders had drawn blood. And now, the Predators were coming in force. The wreckage of the Kravax fleet still drifted in Varelia's orbit, spinning. Slowly, in the quiet black. The Iron Reaper passed through it like a shark moving through blood in the water. Inside, the crew worked silently. They were used to victory. But Captain Rafe's expression wasn't the usual calm satisfaction. It was tighter, the tactical officer noticed. "Something on your mind, Captain?" Rafe didn't answer right away. He was staring at the main display, where a faint, distorted signal pulsed on the far edge of the sector. "That," he said finally. The comms officer adjusted filters. The signal became clearer Kravax transmission, short and sharp, repeated every 30 seconds. "It's not a distress call," the officer said. "It's a recall beacon. They're pulling ships to one location." "Where?" Rafe asked. "A." Pause. Then, unknown space. "Dead zone. No known colonies or outposts. Coordinates don't match anything in our charts." The room seemed colder. Dead zones weren't just empty, they were avoided. Ancient battlefields, places where ships vanished without explanation. Rafe leaned closer. "Bring up the historical data," the pilot frowned. "You think it's one of those places?" "I think the Kravax wouldn't pull back unless they had something worth pulling back to," Rafe said. The database lit up. Small entry appeared. Under the coordinates, nothing but a name, flagged from an old Coalition archive. The Hollow Forge. The crew went quiet. Even in the Deathworlder fleets, that name carried weight. It was said to be a relic from before the current age of empires. A construct left behind by something older, bigger and less forgiving than either humans or Kravax. Rumor said the forge could build weapons no modern science could explain. Rumor also said it could unmake entire worlds. Rafe's voice was low. If that's where they're going, they're not coming back with more ships. They're coming back with something worse. On Varelia, Counselor Saren met Rafe in the underground chamber. The human captain explained what they'd found. Saren shook his head. You've destroyed their fleets before. Why should this be different? 'Cause fleets are made of things that bleed, Rafe said. The Hollow Forge doesn't bleed. I don't know how to kill it. Lyra leaned forward. So you are afraid of something. Rafe didn't smile. I'm afraid of letting it wake. The Varelian Council debated in frantic voices. Some wanted the humans to leave and take their war elsewhere. Others insisted they follow the Kravax and stop them before whatever they were building could be used. Finally, Saren asked, if you go after them, what happens to us? You stay hidden, Rafe said. Seal your cities. Don't answer. Any signals, not even ours, until I say it's clear. Lyra frowned. And if you don't come back, then it's not clear, Rafe said simply. The Iron Reaper launched again. Cutting up through the smoke and into the endless black, days passed in silent travel toward the coordinates. The crew stayed tense. Deathworlders didn't spook easily. But the forge was different. Too many stories, too many crews that had gone looking and never come back. When they finally dropped out of faster-than-light travel, the Hollow Forge filled the VIEWSER. It wasn't a station. It wasn't even a ship. It was a vast, jagged structure that seemed to grow out of the void itself. Segments of it shifted slowly, like metal plates breathing. Power readings are off the scale, the engineer said. It's alive. Before anyone could answer, movement flared at the forge's edgy's Kravax ships, dozens of them, moving in and out like insects crawling over a hive. They're not attacking us, the tactical officer said in disbelief. Don't need to, Rafe replied. They think this place will do the work for them. The forge pulsed once. A wave of energy rolled out in all directions, distorting the stars. The Iron Reaper's lights flickered. Shields just dropped, the engineer said sharply. We're losing all defensive systems. Rafe's jaw tightened. Pull back now. The ship swung away from the forge, engines pushing hard until the readings steadied. On the bridge, the crew looked to their captain. Rafe stared out at the forge, its shifting shapes catching the faint starlight. That thing is the only real threat I've ever seen that might kill all of us, he said no. One argued, the Kravax had something humans couldn't just shoot apart. And for the first time, the Deathworlders had to plan for a fight they weren't sure they could win. Far away. On the Bloodfang's successor flagship, the Kravax warlord watched the forge's power rise. His spines rippled with satisfaction. Let the humans come, he said. We will bury them here. And somewhere in the forge's core, something vast and old stirred. The Hollow Forge loomed like a nightmare in the void. It turned slowly, pieces of its black surface shifting and folding, revealing faint inner light. The Kravax ships moved around it like loyal beasts circling a master, on the bridge of the iron. Reaper, Captain Rafe stood with his arms folded, watching the tactical display. Red dots marked every Kravax ship. Its forge itself pulsed on the screen as a massive, unreadable shape. They're building something, the tactical officer said. Structure's changing, looks like a weapon array. Big one. Ow. Big? Rafe asked. The officer hesitated. If the power readings are right, it could hit a planet from this distance. The engineer swore under his breath. It's not a weapon. That's execution range. Rafe didn't flinch. Then we stop it before it fires. The plan was simple, and brutal, exactly the kind Deathworlders favored. The Iron Reaper would hit the Kravax fleet first, breaking their formation, then drive straight toward the forge's weak point. If they could overload its core before the weapon charged, they might have a chance. But the forge wasn't the only danger. Hours before the assault, an encrypted transmission slipped through the human comes filters. It wasn't Kravax. It was Varelian. This is Lyra, the voice said. We've been tracking your signal. We're close. Rafe's expression hardened. You shouldn't be here. We couldn't just sit and hide, Lyra replied. Brought 3 transport ships. They're armed. We can help. You'll only get yourselves killed. Pause. Then we'll die fighting. It's a channel cut. On the far side of the sector, the Varelian ships powered toward the forge, small and fragile compared to the war fleets waiting ahead. Rafe didn't like liabilities in the middle of a fight, but there was no time to argue. Helm, he said. Take us in. Weapons hot. The Iron Reaper shot forward, its engines flaring bright. The Kravik spotted them instantly. The closest raiders broke formation, rushing to intercept. Port guns fire. Rafe snapped. Railgun rounds screamed into the first wave of raiders, tearing them apart in flashes of light and debris. The Iron Reaper rolled, sliding between 2 more ships and leaving them spinning as missiles detonated across their hulls. The main Kravak's fleet shifted, forming a wall in front of the forge. On the Bloodfang's successor flagship, the Warlord snarled, "Hold them here! Let the forge finish its work." The battle turned chaotic fast. Human guns thundered, Kravak's beams slashed through the dark, explosions tore open the blackness. In the middle of it, the Varelian ships arrived too small to make a difference, too stubborn to retreat. They dove at the Kravak's flank, cannons blazing, drawing fire away from the Iron Reaper. "They're going to get slaughtered," the tactical officer warned. "Then keep them alive," Rafe said. The Iron Reaper punched through the Kravak's line, shields sparking under heavy fire. Ahead, the forge's surface glowed brighter. The weapon array was nearly complete. "Target the junction points," Rafe ordered. "If we break the structure there, it'll delay the charge." The crew obeyed. Every forward gun roared, blasting molten chunks off the forge's shifting plates. But the damage wasn't enough. The forge pulsed again. Shockwave rolled out, cutting through the battlefield. On the bridge, alarms blared, shields offline. "All ships," Rafe said into. Brace for impact." The forge's weapon lit up, a beam of pure white gathering at its center. Every Kravak ship pulled back, giving it space to fire. "They're aiming at Varelia," the tactical officer said, horror in his voice. "It's in range." "Not if we get in the way," Rafe said. The Iron Reaper surged forward, engines at maximum, cutting straight toward the forge's heart. Kravak's ships scrambled to block it, but the humans didn't slow. They tore through enemy hulls, ramming one raider out of their path, treading another with point-blank gunfire. The forge's beam began to fire, then faltered as the Iron Reaper crashed through its outer plating inside. The view was chaos-dowering walls of shifting metal. Rivers of glowing energy, shapes that moved like they were alive. "Plant the charges," Rafe said. The engineer's hands moved fast, programming the core overload sequence. The forge began to react, its inner lights flaring brighter, its walls shifting violently to crush the intruder. "Charges set." Rafe didn't hesitate. "Detonate." The explosion tore through the forge's interior. Energy conduits ruptured, light flared like a dying star, and the massive structure began to tear itself apart. But the forge didn't die quietly. Another pulse erupted from its core, sweeping across the battlefield. Every shiphuman, Varelian, Kravak's went dark. The lights on the Iron Reaper flickered and died. The hum of the engine stopped. The ship drifted in silence. In the distance, the forge still glowed faintly, as if something inside it had survived. Rafe looked around the dead bridge. "We're not finished yet." The void had never felt so silent. No engine hum. No weapon. Fire. No come chatter. Every shiphuman, Varelian, Kravak's, drifted dead in space, powerless. The hollow forge's final pulse had stripped the battlefield bare of life and light. On the Iron Reaper's bridge, emergency lamps glowed dim red. Captain Rafe stood by the forward display, staring at the faint outline of the forge. It was cracked, burning in places, but it wasn't gone. "Auxiliary power?" Rafe asked. The engineer shook his head. "Nothing. The pulse fried everything that runs on our grid. We're dead." The tactical officer's voice was tense. "Same for everyone else. Even the Kravaks are drifting." But he pointed at the display. "The forge is still moving. That was the worst part, even broken. The forge shifted and flexed, like it was healing. How? The engineer whispered. We blew its core. That wasn't the core, Rafe said quietly. The crew looked at him. That thing's alive, he continued. We didn't kill it, we just made it angry. Out beyond the Iron Reaper, something stirred in the debris field shapes that weren't Kravoks or human ships. The tactical officer magnified the feed. They were small, sleek craft, blacker than the void, moving without visible engines. They clung to the forge's surface, then launched off, gliding toward the disabled fleets. What are those? The pilot asked. Rafe's eyes narrowed. Scavengers. The first of the black craft reached. A dead Kravoks raider. It latched on, cutting into the hull with impossible speed. In seconds, the raider's interior lights flickered back to life, but not normal lights. The glow was cold, pale, and wrong. The ship turned and opened fire on its own side. There. Reprogramming them, the engineer said in horror, making them part of the forge. The crew didn't speak for a moment. Then the pilot whispered, What happens when they get to us? The Varelian ships were closest. One of the black craft hit the lead transport, cutting in. Lyra's voice burst through the faint and crackling. Rafe. There the signal cut to static. The Varelian ship turned, its weapons now cold blue and aimed at the others. Rafe's jaw tightened. We're out of time, the engineer looked helpless. Without power, we can't even move. Not on the grid, Rafe interrupted. But there's one system the forge's pulse couldn't touch. He headed for the lower deck, the crew following. In the armory's far corner was an emergency combat capsule, half-battering ram, ran on a sealed chemical. Drive. Old tech. Unhackable. Get this ready, Rafe ordered. We're going to the forge. The pilot blinked. With that, it's barely big enough for 4. 4 is all we need, Rafe said. The engineer understood. You're thinking. Sabotage from inside. Permanent sabotage, Rafe said. Find its real heart. Kill it for good. The crew exchanged glances. Deathworlders didn't fear much. But now, the fear was real. As they prepared the capsule, the bridge lit up faintly. Partial power returning, but not from the Iron Reapers. Systems. The lights were the same pale blue as the corrupted Kravak ships. They're in us, the tactical officer said grimly. The hull shook as something latched onto the ship. Move. Rafe barked. The team piled into the capsule, sealing the hatch as the ship's outer lights turned fully blue. Through the small viewport, they saw the Iron Reaper beginning to rotate, aiming its guns at the remaining Varelian ships. The capsule's chemical thrusters fired, blasting them clear. Behind them, the Iron Reaper, their own ship, joined the forge's growing fleet. The pilot kept them low, skimming through debris toward the jagged edge of the forge. Once we're inside, Rafe said, we don't stop until we find what's running this thing. And if we can't, the engineer asked, then nobody leaves this graveyard, Rafe said. They entered a shadowed breach in the forge's surface. Inside, it was like flying through the veins of some enormous creature pulsing walls. Shifting corridors, occasional glimpses of shapes moving just out of sight. Something's following us, the tactical officer warned, in the rear display. A swarm of black craft poured into the passage after them. Pilot pushed the capsule harder, ahead.
Ow.
The corridors opened into a massive central chamber, lit by a blinding sphere of energy suspended in midair. Shapes moved around it, there. Outlines impossible to focus on. The engineer's voice was tight. That's it, the real core. Rafe raised his weapon, and let's finish this before it finishes us. The swarm closed in. The forge's walls began to fold inward, trying to crush the intruders. The air trembled with a deep, ancient sound like something speaking without words, and in that moment, every one of them felt it. The forge wasn't just alive, it remembered. The chamber shook as the forge's inner walls folded inward, like the closing jaws of a predator. The sphere of energy at its center pulsed brighter with each beat, spilling pale light across the black metal. Rafe didn't hesitate. Get the charges ready. The engineer fumbled with the heavy explosives, his hands shaking as the swarm of black craft poured into the chamber after them. The small capsule that brought them here was already being ripped apart behind them. One of the swarm peeled off, darting toward them, claws of dark metal reaching out. Rafe fired, the rifle's concussive rounds shattering it into molten fragments. The pieces fell into the pulsing floor and were immediately reabsorbed, like the forge was eating its dead. "That's wrong," the tactical officer muttered. "Everything about this thing is wrong," Rafe said. They sprinted toward the sphere. The light was so bright now it hurt to look at. Shapes moved inside. It's shadowy, massive, shifting too quickly to see clearly. The engineer planted the first charge, pressing it into the surface of a black pillar connected to the sphere. The metal hissed like it was alive, and the charge's casing steamed. "They don't want this here," the engineer muttered. "Good," Rafe said. "Means it's working." The swarm came closer. Dozens now, their movement perfectly silent. One darted past, slashing at the tactical officer. Blood sprayed in the low gravity, its tiny crimson droplets drifting before being drawn into the floor. The forge was feeding even on that. "2 charges left," the engineer shouted. The chamber roared. The energy sphere contracted, then expanded, violently knocking everyone off their feet. In the flash of light, Rafe saw them clearly, things inside the sphere, not Kravoks. Not human. Older. Crueler. "They're alive in there," Rafe said softly. The pilot, breathing hard, aimed his sidearm at the sphere. "Then we kill them too." They planted the second charge, this one on a root-like cable of metal running from the sphere into the floor. The moment it attached, the walls screamed. It's not metal groaning, screaming. The forge began to shift, the entire chamber folding and twisting, trying to throw them away from the core. "They're trying to eject us," the tactical officer shouted. "Not happening," Rafe growled. The third and final charge went on the sphere itself. The engineer's hands burned as the heat from the surface seared through his gloves. The casing hissed, but it locked in place. Charges set. The swarm lunged. All at once, a wall of black shapes with cold blue eyes. Rafe opened fire, dropping one, then another, but there were too many. The tactical officer went down, a black claw piercing his chest. The pilot was dragged screaming toward the wall. Rafe grabbed the detonator. "This ends now." The forge seemed to hear him. The sphere pulsed one last time, blindingly bright, and in that instant, Rafe felt it inside his mind. Millions of voices. Memories of planets burned, fleets consumed, civilizations turned into weapons. It was showing him what it had done, what it would do again. He pressed the trigger. The world vanished in white light. When the light faded, Rafe was floating. His suit's oxygen alarm was blaring. The chamber was gone. The forge was gone. Only shards of black metal drifted in the void. The swarm was no more. A faint signal crackled in his helmet. "Rafe, do you read?" Was Lyra? "Still here," he rasped. "What's left of me?" The Varelian voice trembled. "The crabs are gone. Their ships just stopped. Whatever you did, it worked." Rafe looked around at the empty black. His own team was gone. Only he had survived the blast. "That's the thing about Deathworlders," he said quietly. "We don't negotiate. We end threats." The Varelian ships moved toward him, rescue lights cutting through the dark. Rafe closed his eyes as the cold of space seeped in. For now, the galaxy was safe. But the memory of the forge and the things inside it would never leave him, somewhere out there. He knew other machines like it were waiting. And when they woke, there would be no diplomats, only destroyers.